Hello and welcome to Finance Conversation. This is the 62nd episode of the Merging Life and Money Show, and I am super excited to be here. For those of you who do not know me, I am your host, Marie-Jo César. I assist professional women to bridge the gap between life and money by tooling them with the necessary financial skill and information they need to take control of their money, manage their finances, and recognize that they can live their best life with the money they have. Thank you for joining in today. If you are watching the replay, make sure to type #replay in the chat and leave me some comments and questions. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. I come to you live every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to give you essential information about how to attain financial wellness and live a life of means and purpose. As you may know, the Merging Life and Money Show's primary purpose and my very strong why is to empower as many women as possible by sharing what I know about money and finance so that they can live their greatest lives yet. So today I will be talking about inflation. So grab a pen and a notebook, as you may want to take some notes about this current and important topic that affects all of us, and make sure to share and discuss those notes with family members, friends, colleagues, whomever you want to, because it is about sharing values that could benefit others. So if you have any question, let me remind you to put them in the chat, and I will get back to you and directly. And if you want to talk to me directly, I will share my information with you as well a little later in the show. So, I would start by saying that there are certain things in life that are certain. Okay, things like taxes, if you live in America, death for sure, doesn't matter where you are, and of course inflation. So inflation is a term that gets tossed around a lot. Okay, it is, in my view, it is a sneaky little devil that creeps up on you gradually and over time until one day you realize your paycheck doesn't go as far as it used to, meaning that inflation can go a long way to erode the value and purchasing power of money. So today I will talk about what is inflation, what drives inflation, and I will also share some recommended inflation-proof solution with you. So before addressing these few points, let's look at some statistics. Inflation is at a 40-year high, and the Federal Reserve, the organization responsible for maintaining the stability of the financial system in the US, rose interest rates by the most in over 20 years to fight inflation. I will also add that today, this morning for us, and I guess early morning in the UK today, the Bank of England, which is the UK's equivalent of the Federal Reserve, hiked interest rates to a 13-year high, as inflation is actually hitting 10% over there. I would also add that the UK pound hit a low today of $1.24, the lowest since July 2020. So feel like traveling to England? Now will be a good time if you can afford it. Okay, so back to today's topic. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, the annual inflation rate in the US increased to 8.5% in March of this year, up from 7.9% in February, representing the highest level since December 1981, 40 years. Energy costs jumped by 32%, mostly gasoline and fuel oil as a result of Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. And additionally, food prices have increased 8.8%, the highest level since May 1981. And inflation increased for housing in February was 5%. For new cars, it was 12.5%. Right? So, excluding volatile energy and food categories, what they call the CPI or the Consumer Price Index rose 6.5%. Again, the most in 40 years. So before I go any further, let me explain what the CPI is, or Consumer Price Index. It is the most widely used measure of inflation and deflation. So basically, the Consumer Price Index measures the average change in the prices paid by consumers for a market basket of consumer goods and services over time. So the baskets of good approach tracks changes in the cost of 8 major categories people spend money on, like food and beverage, housing, apparels, transportation, education and communication, recreation, and medical care. So the items used in the basket are updated and changed periodically to keep up with current consumer habits in order to best represent the broader economy. I will add that the US inflation rate is measured not only by the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, but also by the Producer Price Index and the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, simply because no one index captures the full range of prices change in the US economy. So economists must consider these multiple indexes to get a comprehensive picture of the rate of inflation. Additionally, as I mentioned a few moments ago, many consider the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, to be the benchmark for measuring inflation in the US. So the CPI is especially important because it is used to calculate cost of living increases for Social Security payments and for many companies, annual raises. So it is also used to adjust the rate on some inflation protected securities like TIPS, and I'm getting a bit technical here. TIPS are Treasury inflation protected securities. So let's get back to the subject. As we speak, many analysts believe that inflation has reached its peak, although the war in Ukraine is far from over. The supply chain bottlenecks still persist, and consumer demand remains elevated, which is likely to weigh on the consumer price index for a little while longer, in my opinion. And for full disclosure, I am not an economist, okay? I'm just expressing my opinion, just saying. Let's look at the first point. What is inflation and how does it work? Inflation is a complex economic concept that refers to the rising cost of goods and services over time. This can have a number of causes, different causes, such as increases in demand, shortage of supply, fluctuation in wages, monetary policies instituted by central banks like the Fed, or even political factors such as government intervention or economic policies. So, in order to effectively deal with inflation, we must first understand its root causes and identify methods that can help stabilizing prices. So, one strategy that has proven to be particularly effective is to implement targeted measures aimed at increasing supply and decreasing demand for certain goods. For example, some governments may choose to lower taxes on certain products, which could potentially lead to more supply as businesses decide to produce these goods in order to take advantage of the favorable tax rate. In addition, monetary policy changes like rising interest rates or imposing price control can also help mitigate the effects of inflation by reducing consumer spending and encouraging consumers to save rather than spend their money. So, in short, while inflation can be a challenging issue, there are concrete steps that can be taken to minimize it um, and help ensure the long-term stability and growth of our economy. Also, with the right tools and strategies in place, it is possible for individuals and businesses to mitigate the harmful effects of inflation and ensure a stable economy for years to come. Okay, so I will end this point by saying, as a currency loses value, prices go up and it buys less and less. As a result, economic growth slows down because people lose purchasing power, which raises the cost of living for everyone. So, according to most economists, when a country's money supply grows faster than the country's economic growth, this produces a long-term inflation. So, to fight this, a country's monetary authority, like the Federal Reserve in the US and the Bank of England in the UK, takes the necessary steps to control the amount of money and credit available to keep inflation at a safe level and the economy running smoothly. So let's look at the second point. What drives inflation in the US? Well, economists seem to think that there are several reasons, as Americans are still seeing and hearing about the country's inflation problems. So clearly, they experience it firsthand, right? At the gas pump, the grocery store, or on their news feeds, right? So if you recall, we all got a knee-jerk reaction in December of 2021 when it was announced that the rate of inflation hit a 40-year high, and it did not stop there. So as noted earlier, as of March of this year, it was 8.5%. And many people don't know what is causing the inflation and when it will stop. So what we know is that the pandemic impacted the economy, okay? But what is really affecting the purchasing power of the dollar is still unclear to many. So from following the subject matter, it seems to me that while most economists agree that inflation is caused by the same things, they do disagree about what components are most responsible for the price rises that are frustrating the American consumer. Okay, so clearly the supply chain issue, I should say issues, the surging demand, the production costs, and all the relief fund bandages are all to blame. However, it seems that, in my candid opinion, politicians want the American people to believe that the 1.9 billion, or I should say 1.9 trillion with a T, American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, or the supply chain issues are the main reasons. Meanwhile, will the Federal Reserve rate increase fix the supply chain issues? Okay, this remains, in my view, to be seen. So I'll leave it as that for now. It is a fact, though, that consumers are eager to spend and suppliers are not able to keep up with the demand. Okay, 2 years after the first temporary coronavirus lockdowns, production cut downs are still being felt. Okay, the pandemic has caused a lasting problem with the shipping, unloading, and delivering goods around the country, particularly at major ports like um, Long Beach, California. So the rising price of goods mean that businesses have had to decrease their profit margin or to raise prices for consumers. And more often than not, they have to do both. Okay? So let's face it. While I'm not an engineer, I understand that making cars has been difficult because there aren't enough semiconductors to go around. And this has led to a sharp rise in the prices of used cars and rental cars. Also, many US oil producers went bankrupt as the economy came to a halt because of the pandemic. Okay, so now oil demands have recovered, but supply has not. So, to make matter worse, factories in Asia, China in particular, are totally shut down because of the pandemic still. Therefore, parts and semiconductors needed to produce cars, household appliances, wearable goods, and many more in the US are not being produced. Consequently, we continue to have supply limitations and higher inflation naturally. Having said all of that, consumers from all walks of life are feeling the effect of rising prices, but low and fixed income people are hit the hardest. Okay, we must eat. You have to drive to work and take the kids to school. You also have to live somewhere. Okay, these are not optional. Okay, and it is quite painful for a lot of folks. So I will end this point by saying that experts are saying that there are three main reasons why prices are going up right now: the rising cost of labor, the rising prices of energy, and the rising interest rates, to name a few. Each one pushes the cost of everyday consumer goods higher, and it will take a complex set of forces to return to pre-pandemic normal. Which takes me to the third point of today's show: recommended inflation-proof solution. With a forever increasing cost of living, it seems, because of a combination of COVID-caused shortages, demand spikes, rising energy prices, and not enough people to fill all the jobs, what will the effect of higher inflation be on our personal finances, and how should you react? The main point here is to remain ahead of inflation, which is a good reason to invest your money in assets that could grow to help fight it. Okay? Inflation is always important from a financial planning point of view because you want to think about your long-term financial goals in terms of your purchasing power. All right, so before I go further, I'm going to make a few disclaimers here. Everything said in the Merging Life and Money show is for general, informational, and educational purposes only, and it is not intended to constitute legal, tax, accounting, or investment advice, and should not be relied on for tax, legal, investment, or accounting purposes. Okay, you should consult your own tax, your own legal, and your own investment and accounting advisors before engaging in any transaction. Okay, so back to the schedule programming. Let's explore a few inflation proofing strategies. I came up with a few. One, revisit your household expenses, okay? It is more important than ever to make sure you know how much you are spending and live within your mean. So make sure you do that, okay? That means making a budget. By the way, the grocery bill is probably the biggest part of your money that and that you can change actually. It's about being a smart shopper, making meal plans, buying things when they are on sale to put in the freezer, and then taking them into account for the next week's meals. Okay. Um, Make sure to pay attention to your utility bills as well. Okay. Negotiate as much as you can with the service providers. Two, reassess your savings. Your emergency fund should be in a competitive, easy to use account that pays as much interest as possible. Okay. Um, for money that you won't need for at least 6 months or more, it might be worth putting it in a fixed rate account. Right. So, three, we think about borrowing. Okay. Let's look at credit cards first. Higher interest rates are bad news for people who borrow money. It costs more to borrow money from credit card companies when it costs more for them. Okay, so clearly it's costing the company more, so it's going to cost you more. This means that you will pay more for the credit card. So if you are keeping debts for a long time and paying high interest rates, think about how you can control these debts and pay them down and pay them off quickly. Now, if you have a good credit score, one option is to switch a card with a 0% introductory period on balance transfer and make a plan to pay the balance off by the time interest rate starts, by the time the interest starts to accrue. Okay? So that way, more of the money you are paying goes toward paying off the debt, not paying off the interest. It is also important for you to stop using your credit cards. We talk about borrowing, so mortgage falls into that category as well. So the days of cheap mortgages are coming to an end. Okay, so higher interest rate will make it more expensive to buy a home, naturally. So some lenders have already started to raise the interest rates, okay, that they charge for new loans. So if you are considering refinancing your mortgage, check out the new fixed rate mortgages and make sure to compare the cost of your current mortgage to what is available on the market today and think about whether it makes sense to switch loans. Also, make sure to check the terms of your current loan before making a switch though. Okay? Four, reevaluate your investment portfolio. Take a look at your whole investment mix and figure out where you are. Okay? Let me say that there are no silver bullets. You might need a mix of investment to get a return that can help keep up with rising prices. And some investment may be better than others for this task, okay? So, and some may not be. So, do your research. Do your research. do your research. Okay, it is available there. There are books. You have the internet. Um, it's no reason. It's no. I should say it's no information shortage when it comes to that. 5. Take a look at your pension arrangement. Okay, so if you're still working, well, keep doing what you are doing. Continue to contribute to your employer's pension plan, as well as, and before I move from that, 401k plan, maximize it. Okay, your employer, if that employer has a match, offers a match, contribution match, take advantage of it. Okay, and also contribute to your Roth IRA every month. You have to have one. Okay, do not rely solely on your employer's pension plan. And please do not keep too much of your money in cash. Okay, you should be able to make more money from investment over time than you would if inflation will rise. Okay, so working will, of course, help you earn more, okay, which will help you keep up with inflation. But yes, there's a but, okay? Working also affect your social security benefits, particularly when you're getting closer to retirement. You can start getting your retirement benefits as early as age 62. But if you don't wait until your full retirement age, which is now 67 for people born in 1960 or later, your benefit will be less. Okay? Now, getting close to retiring, you might not be able to balance taking risks with making enough money from equity investment to be able to keep up with inflation in this low rate world. So make sure your portfolio has the right mix of investments. All right. In doing so, you should think about your own situation, your goals, and your risk tolerance. So the key there is to have a well diversified portfolio. Now, retired, if anything, retirees are being squeezed more than any other person by the high rate of inflation. Okay, while Social Security benefits are adjusted for retirement, retirees are still struggling with higher cost of goods, gas, I mean, anything that goes up. Because the last I checked, they do not have special retiree stores or special gas station for retirees with lower prices. Okay. Furthermore, retirees are greatly affected by all three corporate inflation, lower interest rates, and market volatility. And we are currently going through all three. So, for the retirees that are listening, I will say to make sure to, one, adjust your budget by cutting down on expenses where you can. Two, delay claiming your Social Security benefits as long as you can. Okay, if you can wait until 69, 68, 69, you will see a great improvement in the amount of inflation protected income that you will get. And three, have a balanced portfolio with a good mix of equity, bonds, and cash instruments. Okay, focus on longevity. I said longevity. Oh my God, my French is kicking in. Focus on longevity when checking your portfolio. And lastly, if you need to, consider talking to a financial specialist. Okay, so I will wrap it up, 29 minutes. For those of you who joined late, today I talked about how to inflation proof your money, and I addressed 3 points. What is inflation? And I shared some recommended inflation proof solution as well. As we've seen, there are a few ways to protect your money from the erosive effect of inflation. and it is not as hard as you might think. All you need is a little knowledge and some planning. So don't wait, okay? Get started. Inflation proof your finances. And in fact, while I was talking to you this afternoon, I realized that I should have prepared a free guide on how to best um, beat inflation. So I will prepare it, and it will be available for download uh, from both my Facebook page and my YouTube channel this weekend. So stay tuned. With this helpful resource, you can make sure that your money is safe and sound no matter what the future holds. And as you know, I like to end the show with a quote. And today I selected a quote from the late Ronald Reagan, former U.S. president of the U.S. Former U.S. president. I said that, and it reads: "Inflation is as violent as a mugger, as frightening as an armed robber, and as deadly as a hitman." So this brings us to the end of today's Merging Life and Money episode. Again, I hope that you have enjoyed it. And I will encourage you to watch the replay because I know it's not the sexiest topic on earth, but it is important to know about it. Okay, so for more information about how to achieve financial wellness from the inside out and live a purposeful life with the money you have, join me next week, Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Atlantic Time for my Bermudian pips, and 10 a.m. Friday, Brisbane, Australia time for my Australian friends. Thank you for being here today on the Merging Life and Money Show. I am your host, Marie-Jo César. I will be back again next week. Until then, continue merging life and money. Bye for now.